Hello and welcome to our virtual audience to our latest edition of When Freedom Speaks, an original Star of Zion programming series geared to showcase the A.M.E Zion Church, the vision of the church, the purpose and mandate to Christianity by way of the interviews told from A.M.E Zion leadership as well as special guests. My name is Darren Kent, and I am the Chief Communications Officer of the A.M.E Zion Church. Today, we are delighted to discuss our strategic planning initiative being spearheaded by our Strategic Planning Commission. And of course, with every good commission, we find stellar leadership. And I want to bring our chair and first vice chair on right now. Our first vice chair of the Strategic Planning Commission for this quadrennium is none other than the presiding prelate of the Western Episcopal District of the A.M.E Zion Church and the 106th bishop in the line of succession, Bishop Brian Thompson Sr. Welcome to the show, Bishop.
God bless you, Brother Kent. I'm just so excited to be on When Freedom Speaks. I was wondering when you're going to have me back on here so I could be on our official organ and be with all the wonderful things that you're doing. But I'm so happy to be here today with When Freedom Speaks.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. So our commission is chaired by none other than the presiding prelate of the Alabama-Florida Episcopal District, Mr. 103 himself, Bishop George Crenshaw. Welcome, Bishop.
Thank you so much, Brother Darren Kent. It's a joy to be back with When Freedom Speaks. Thank you for all the great work you're doing and for how you're showcasing the A.M.E Zion Church to the world.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bishop. So I want to hop right into it. We are going to start talking about strategic planning, and we're going to be engaging our audience, and we're trying to advance the kingdom through how we're doing things strategically throughout our denomination. So if you would, let's just lay the foundation for tonight. Bishop Crenshaw, explain what it means to be a strategic planner for a denomination.
Brother Darren, at the 51st quadrennial session of our General Conference, a resolution was passed, became law, that required that the Board of Bishops would lead the church into its strategic plan for the next decade, essentially. Bishop Kenneth Monroe, who was chair of the board at that time, and the president, of course, of the Board of Bishops, senior bishop and president, he asked me, directed me to serve as the chairperson. Bishop Hilliard Dogby serves as first vice, and Bishop Brian Thompson serves as second vice. Any organization that is going to remain relevant must have a period where they reevaluate who they are, what they stand for, and what they're doing, and the ways in which they're doing. And it is through our strategic plan, that we hope to accomplish that. It's clear to me, within the next 20 years, the permanent trajectory of the A.M.E Zion Church will be established. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us right now to help solidify that trajectory toward a place of healing, to a place of hope, to a place of victory. And I'm delighted that Bishop Dogby and Bishop Thompson are serving along with me as the three of us try to lead this church, with our colleagues certainly there for our support and there for guidance, to lead this church in a real strategic plan. We're going to look at ourselves. We're not just going to open up the hood and kick the tires, but we intend to evaluate every part of our church to see what is working and what is not working. Operating from this point of view, that tradition is not an anchor weight to the past, but is a springboard to our future.
Amen. Thank you for laying that foundation for us. I have another question, and either one of you can take it. Have other organizations and denominations partaken in such efforts, or is this like a A.M.E Zion first thing? Has this been done before? Are we taking from somebody else's lead here? Or are we following or assisting with anything? How's that go?
Bishop Thompson has been working alongside our CME brothers as he's preparing for a very meaningful part of our strategic plan. So I want him to, if he would, to answer that for us. He has specific insight on that.
What we've done is, through the direction of Bishop Crenshaw, is to see exactly the other areas or other denominations that were dealing with strategic planning. In that, some of our Methodist brothers and sisters have found themselves in that situation. We've had many of them, and truthfully, many of them have done it. Just about every denomination, a Methodist body, has done it. But I know that the CMEs, the A.M.Es, they've done them on such a level that it's came to the point of this time where we were able to look at their model and say, okay, we'll take some things from that. But there's also some specificity. What Zion needed to do, it's the same thing of evaluating, but let's just see the different areas we want to cover. So we did look at that because the United Methodist has done it. The different sects of Baptists have done it, but we wanted to look at a model and take it and try to massage it into what we needed so that we could get the directives and questions. I think that every denomination that we've looked at that was able to do an evaluation did it for what they needed at the time. So therefore, we've let this evolve. And with our strategic planning commission, along with Bishop Dogby, Bishop Crenshaw, along with all of the strategic planning team, were able to put their input in and their voice so that we might hear from different areas, then take a model and put this out to the people that we might be able to get the answers that we're looking for, at least maybe not the answers, but the results that we're looking for.
Okay, but that clarifies some things for me and clarifies things for our audience as well. We have a virtual audience that just needs to be brought up to speed on what it is we're doing. Has it been done before? And just, seeing if we're not reinventing the wheel per se, excuse me. So now that we have that, if you could just in your own ways, both of you go through what it means, how important this work is to the A.M.E Zion Church. And then if while answering that, kind of even describe to us like how this was put together, like what does this look like? Kind of lift the veil back a little bit for us. How are our meetings taking place? Who's a part of our board on this commission? Who's giving the input? Who is making some of the decisions on the back end that is going to be able to bless the people throughout the denomination moving forward, so that we can kind of just understand that for our virtual audience on today. Bishop Thompson, if you would go first, and then
and then Bishop Crenshaw, after this, as you just said, will give the parts of the people who are doing it. I'll be able to deal with how we've been able to do it. And when we deal with it, Brother Ken, and I hope I'm answering your question, is when we came together, those persons who had been assembled that Bishop Crenshaw is going to talk about deal with the life and breath of the church, the length and breadth of the church. So those areas of concern and specificity, what we want to do as the committee is putting out this, making this survey come together, is to be able to tap in to the different areas And with those different persons that have been assembled, Bishop Crenshaw has led us to put those persons on this strategic planning commission that would be able to speak from every voice of Zion. And when he's able to speak, we've got a little bit of everybody on there, which if we miss something, because one thing we didn't want to do is miss anything, and we don't want to miss anybody. Even to the point where Bishop Crenshaw said, as a vision, let's have a subgroup. Let's take this, and as he broke them out and gave directives to Bishop Dogby, myself, and others, as we were dealing with that, we have a subgroup made up of persons that are lay people and preachers throughout the denomination to deal with the subgroup. That way you do it in layers and you don't miss anybody. Because one thing we didn't want to do is bishops of the church, as those who serve our church, is be able to say, what do we want to know, or come from our mindset? That's all wrong. You can't be from top down. It has to be organic. We wanted realness. We wanted the plain truth. It used to be an old saying in the country, y'all from the city, so y'all don't know nothing about this. It's black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. We wanted just what it is. We didn't want a K-cup. We wanted some old Folgers in the can. We wanted just rare, raw, and not saying that we're looking for destructive or non-constructive criticism, but we wanted to be able to know exactly what it is that we need to do to let our church not only be the church of now, but the church in the next, which means we had to take those different walks of life. Pookie, Shaquela, Shanae, we wanted the PhD and the GED. We wanted the law enforcement and the felon. Because that's all in our church, and we can act like it ain't in our church. But that's who makes up this wonderful freedom church called Zion. That is the beauty of our church. So we want to hear from every area. So when we pulled that together, we made sure that we were able to hear from all those voices of the Strategic Planning Committee. And then Bishop Crenshaw allowed a subgroup, and that subgroup has nothing to do with the strategic planning. And that's the beauty of it. I didn't realize what he was doing until we got off a call one night. If they're not involved within the nucleus of the planning, then their voice or their vision can't be skewed or shaped by what we've said. So when I'm taking that information and going to the subgroup and say, this is what we're putting together, this is what we're doing, I hear stuff that the Strategic Planning Commission never hears, because now I'm getting it unfiltered and raw. And therefore, when it goes back up to the Strategic Planning Commission, the Strategic Planning Commission can also say, well, we need to add this. We need clarity on this. We need instruction on this. We need more questions than dialogue. All of that, which makes it a good, organic, old-fashioned, around the stove meeting where we just want people to tell us exactly what they're thinking about our beloved Zion. And then Bishop Crenshaw is able to tell exactly who's on that Strategic Planning Commission.
Thank you, Bishop Thompson, for explaining it tremendously well. We start this, Brother Kent, by recognizing this. The message never changes, but the methods by which we share that message must change. And if it does not, we become irrelevant. So the General Church assigned 3 bishops. Bishop Monroe, of course, named those bishops, myself, Bishop Thompson, and Bishop Dogby. The church also named some general officers to be a part of this, and some connectional officers. You are a part of it, Brother Kent. Brother Julius Walls, our chief operating officer, our chief financial officer, is a part of this. Dr. Sandra Crowder is a part of this, and it's one other person who, Joe Davis, is a part of this.
General Secretary,
lay council person, General Secretary, Dr. Elvin Sattler. So we have the leadership of the church in various places, persons who hear from leaders and who hear from the everyday lay person. And that's what's critical about this strategic plan. And Bishop Thompson is exactly right. We want to hear from the person who's not interested in serving in any general or conference office. They just want a quality church. My mother was such a person. She didn't want to be a district officer. She was a local officer, but she loved the church. We want to hear from that person who loves the church, who pays their tithes, gives their offerings, who sweep floors and cook food and who loves the church at a level that they don't need their names called, not asking for their names to be called, but they want a quality church. So this strategic plan is all about ensuring that we are listening to the members of our church and then providing a plan that takes us forward, that keeps us relevant and keeps us at the forefront of society, especially among those whom we serve. It is sad that we spend most of our time talking about who we were rather than talking about who we are. It's tragic that we refer often to marching in our past, but not being advocates in our present. And our strategic plan will help us to see exactly where we should be standing and where we should be serving.
Wow. Thank you for that. That makes it crystal clear as to how we are doing this, who's involved behind the scenes in making this happen. And it sounds like it's really going to be impactful and benefit our entire denomination. I have few more questions for us this evening. Explain like the approach, the multifaceted approach as to how this commission is going to go about being able to work through the strategic planning process.
Well, what we're planning to do is, first of all, have a survey. The survey, you can, if what you don't evaluate will evaporate. And that's just what it is. You have to hear the people. So if you don't evaluate it, it's going to be like a vapor. And the problem is, if you don't hear what the people are saying, and that's what Bishop Crenshaw was alluding to, we've got to hear what Aunt Jane and Pookie are saying to us. So we put it in a simplified form. So we're using a survey platform. It's going to be sent out to everyone we have the emails. If you get any communication from the A.M.E Zion Church in any way, form, or fashion, you should get this survey. And we've been intentional about this, even to the point where we're not relying on what we have. We've reached out to the missionaries, to the lay people, to the Christian Education Department, to the Presiding Elders Council, reached out to everybody. Give me every email you've got. Because one thing that we realized is just because you're getting our great newspaper, the Star of Zion, which there's no better, that is a wonderful thing. But let's just say for somebody who's not getting it, that's in the local church, who's not a subscriber, then we found out that you can get that from maybe the presiding elders list of those persons who are law officers. Like Bishop Crenshaw said, his mom didn't want to be an officer on this level, but she was on the local level. We went and tried to grab all of those emails. We're going to send out the survey, and then the Strategic Planning Commission stress, let it be simple. We're not doing it where people will be able to do run-on dialogue, because if that's the case, my kid's gonna sit up there and write a book, at least a chapter of it. So it's gonna be yes and no questions, or how we're doing, evaluating how we're doing. So we'll do that through the survey. But not only that, the annual conferences will get involved, because we want to make sure that each bishop is able to take that information to their Episcopal area. And when they take it to their Episcopal area, we've got persons who are on that subgroup that we've deputized, that we have familiarized with the information, so that they will be able to interact with the annual conference level, because everybody is not going to deal with it on a survey. They're not going to go click that link. They're scared it's going to get infected. They're scared that they're going to mess up if they do. No, somebody's going to track them. So some people will be more comfortable in a public setting, in an annual conference setting, or in a setting that the bishops will agree for each area, that there are people can come together. And we're going to have these persons facilitating these questions. These people are Zion, but they have no, and this is the beauty of separating that group, they're not worried about the responses that come back to the Strategic Planning Commission. Their job is to grab the information, collect the information. So with the survey, it will be an analytical, strategic breakdown analysis. We'll have analysis of everything. This many people said this. 80% of the people of the A.M.E Zion Church said Bishop Brian R. Thompson is one of the greatest bishops. I'm just playing. It's going to be to the point where it will be a 80% this, 20% this. It's a breakdown. That's our analytical. Nothing's wrong with analytical. You need the analytical. That's the question answer. That's the evaluation. But we also want to hear from the heart of the people. And that's where those persons are going to be within those episcopal areas, talking to these persons in a controlled setting that we might be. And when I say control, not manipulated, but control, mean that they will come into the setting. The bishop of that area, Bishop Crenshaw, Bishop Dogby, and myself realize that there's our colleagues are fully capable of being able to bring their group of their area together. And at that appointed time and setting, we'll give suggestions of what kind of meetings it should be. Our persons will facilitate those meetings, whether it be Zoom or live, but we'll make sure that it's done, that we can collect all of the information. Then we take all this data, the analytical, we take the things that's organic that we've heard from the annual conferences or from the Episcopal area, put this into a form that we can be able to go back to the Strategic Planning Commission. The Strategic Planning Commission will be able to review that information. Then we will put it into the hands of our chair, Bishop Crenshaw. So when it's time to make the report at the designated time at our national meeting, he'll be able to say, this is what we found out. So that's the way our flow is right now.
Just before Bishop Crenshaw follows up a little bit, if he chooses to do so, could you speak a little bit to the fact that you spoke about analytics? What about anonymity, right? Like, is there going to be a level of the fact that I can put this up and I don't have to feel like I'm going to be judged, or they're going to know exactly who wrote these questions and who graded the A.M.E Zion Church at a certain level? Is that a thing? Do we need to guard against that? And is that being taken into consideration when the survey is out?
Brother Kent, we're the church. We're not punitive. We wouldn't dare do that to anybody. With that said, it is total anonymity. We're going to make sure that it's not a source link, which means it's not going directly to the person and then their email reports back to the server or back to the originator. We'll put this in a mass email. When you do that, it's called an independent blind survey. So we see the answers or the analytics that come back, but it is never identified. So one thing that you as our brilliant CCO has given us is that when we do this in an email, rather than send it out through our survey platform, somebody can click on that. It goes into their Safari, their Chrome, whatever it goes into. They're able to fill it out. And when they send it back to us, it's total anonymity. And I want all those persons listening to know there's no way, as much as I like to know sometimes, exactly who's sending what. I found out sometimes it's like Fred Sanford said, you don't know and you don't want to know. And we don't want to know because we want you to tell us the truth. And you won't have to worry about that. And you'll be able to test that by when you send it back. It gives no ID mark, no digital footprint of who you are. So that will go back. And then persons will be able to go through our official organ, be able to go through the star, be able to go through our website of the A.M.E Zion Church and do the QR code, and also be able to copy the link off of there. So if somebody doesn't feel comfortable doing it on the because they got an email and they think we're tracking them, we ain't got time to be tracking people. We got more serious issues to deal with right now. But for those persons that think Big Brother is watching and tracking them, you'll be able to go to an independent source, whether it be from the Star of Zion. Take your phone, do it with the QR code, or you'll be able to go into any of our official platforms, hit the link, and you'll be able to pull that and do it yourself. And that makes the beauty of it, because we want it raw and organic. And then we go a step further. We don't want to just deal with the people that's already in Zion. We want to deal with the people that's left Zion, those persons that's gone to other churches, those folks that still members but ain't been in one of our churches for 5 years and they have not been dropped from the roll, that they are sitting there. We are making sure that on those levels, we send it out to these persons. And we even are having persons to say, when you know persons, presiding elders, pastors, you know persons that left the church, just running with the church, or are just numb to the church, nothing we've done or something we may have done, send it to them. Let's get the just truth. It's not about them being a member of our church. It's about our church being better for now and the generation to come. So if Bob left and he was mad when he left, And I was his pastor at Simon Temple when he left. And he swears he ain't never coming back to the A.M.E Zion Church because that crazy bald-head preacher did this, or that. He was standing on chairs. And I don't like that. I'm my church. I don't like say. I want to hear that. We want to hear that. If Bob never comes back, we would love to have Bob back because we always want people to be able to come back to our church. But it ain't for that. It's that we can be a better church. So we won't lose Bob again, and also have the possibility if Bob wants to come back, he'll know or she'll know, Bob or Bobette, or know that the door is open and that the Zion Church is not sitting around like a recluse, believing that we're going to survive forever just because of our great foundation and our great history and our great people. We realize that our most valuable resource under Jesus Christ are the people. It is Aunt Jane, it is Aunt Sue, it's Pookie and Shaquela. And we want all of them to be able to mix together, but we also want to hear what they have to say, whether it be good or whether it be bad.
Wow. Yeah. So I hear you saying that we are open to hearing inside our church and outside our church, and actually want that feedback. We're encouraging those that have nothing to do with our denomination, that might even, be non-denominational, nothing to do with church, period. If you were to stumble upon this survey, we would still want some impact or some input, for how you would answer the questions that are on the survey. If you could, either one of you could take this question, just take us through a glimpse of what some of the questions are on the survey, right? Just maybe 2 or 3 of them, just so we can get an idea of what we might be about to answer when we do click on the survey link.
Before Bishop Thompson answers that question, let me give you the other section, because we're not only surveying our general population, but it's important that we note that we have Bishop Dogby hearing from the bishops, and we have Julius Walls hearing from the general officers and the connectional officers. We want everyone to hear that we have a balanced approach. It's a 3-pronged approach. So Bishop Dogby, as a matter of fact, I received my email from him just this morning saying to me that as a bishop, he wants me to go through this survey and speak from the standpoint of a bishop. Julius Walls have already sent the emails to you guys for you all to handle that portion of the survey. And now I've asked Bishop Thompson, of course, if he would take the heaviest load, and he's done a tremendous job to survey the general population. Now, having said that, I want him to talk about a few of the questions that individuals are going to hear.
Thank you. And Bishop Crenshaw brought up something that when he was talking about that, you see the multifacetedness of that. It's not top heavy, it's not middle or bottom heavy. You're going to hear from everybody. And by this general population, as we would use a term, is dealing with, they're going to hear questions like, design, take care of, and I'm paraphrasing the question, the needs of the youth. As a young adult, do you believe that you are part of the future or vision of the A.M.E Zion Church? Wow. Have we done enough to be able to take care of our seniors and make sure that they are part of the Reformation or where we're going? It's going to deal with, how often do you go to church? Is there a positive or negative connotation or feeling about the episcopacy? Yeah, we're going to ask questions about our own self. Wow. We want to be able to know that. Yeah. Do you see Zion? We're over 200 years old. What do you see longevity with Zion, or Zion being able to survive the tests and trends of times that are coming? We're going to ask questions about COVID. We're going to ask questions about virtual worship. We're going to ask questions about coming back together, the quarterly conference. We're going to ask all these questions because they make up who we are. So we're going to ask them. And again, for those who are listening, when you hit it, don't be disappointed because you're not able to write a paragraph or page. We don't have the manpower to read everybody's page-long comment. But what we've done is put it in the point where you'll get a chance to answer about everything and more. There's even more questions that you'll be able to answer, and it's going to deal with every facet of life. And remember, if you're not able to get it on the survey platform, we're coming to your Episcopal area, so you're still going to get a chance to input. So we've tried to think of every kind of way. And one thing that you lift up, Brother Kent, while ago, just a minute ago, is that we're also not only dealing with folks who've been in our church and left our church, not only folks who decided to be a member of the church on road but won't come to church, or CMEs and come Christmas, Mother Day, and Easter. We're going to deal with people who have, like Bishop Crenshaw said, had nothing to do with our church. So I was preaching this weekend in Washington, D.C., and a man was back there who is a Church of God in Christ. He's part of the Church of God in Christ.
Wow.
And I was telling him about this thing that we're doing. I said, I'm going to send you the survey. He said, well, Doc, they've been trying to get me signed forever. You know, Bishop so-and-so. I said, we ain't trying to get you. We want to know what you think of our church, because perception is some people's reality. So he's church. He's kingdom. He's not necessarily. We're not looking to get him, but we want to know what the perception is of our church. So me and him were talking about some heavy issues with both of our churches, and he had a great familiarity with our church. He knew about more of our church than so. I need to find out who letting the leak out, because he know about more of our church than most of our folks know. So I need to know what he thinks about church, because he's been in his Church of God in Christ for 65 years, but he has enough interest to know about us. Well, if you got enough interest to know, I need to know exactly what you think. So we're also going to be surveying those first.
And it always like that. People outside our church know more about our church than our own people. Listen, this has been informative. You alluded to the fact that there will be a QR code that's going to be on the Star of Zion, the November issue, which is coming out. That should be hitting doorsteps in either the first week or the second week of the month. So look forward to that. It's front page. We have an article. It's got a big QR code right on the front. You take your phone out, you open the photo tab up, and you actually take a picture of that, and a link will pop up. You click on that link, and it's going to hyperlink you directly to the website where the survey will be posted. And then you can go through on your phone, on your mobile device, take the survey, and at the end you submit it. And like you said, nobody will know it, and you will be able to get that up to our commission. And then the commission takes all this information. And I'm so happy that you went through a few of the questions, because I wanted people to be clear, like when they're taking the question, it might not seem like a survey that's going to be working a strategic plan for a denomination. It might seem like, hey, what are these questions about? Like, why are they asking me about what song I like, or what kind of, what's pew I want to sit in when I get into the church, and things of that nature. But all of that really brings it home for us. Is that right, Bishop?
It does. I'm sorry, Bishop Crenshaw. I think you. The other day when my TV wasn't working, they asked me everything except was my TV on. My question was, why do you want to know about everything else in my house? Everything else is going on because they were trying to get to the bottom of the problem. The problem wasn't the projection that was on the TV. It was what was going on in the stuff that I couldn't see. Wow. And it frustrated me that they kept asking me that question, but them asking that question got them to get me to reset my box, because what was happening on my TV, what the projection had nothing to do with it. It was what was coming from the outside source that was going through the lines and hitting my box. That was the issue. But if she didn't ask them 11 questions before, I would have never got my picture back. We're trying to get the picture. We're trying to see the picture. And Bishop Crenshaw will elaborate even more.
If you would, Bishop.
Absolutely. Once we receive this information, that information is read, collated, and placed in sections, and then we will have mission itself to assign those issues to various committees. Now, where do we get the committees from? One of the beautiful things about our church is we have administrative boards and organizations. And if there's an issue, there's already a bishop chairing that administrative board. There are equal clergy and lay representation on that board. And every Episcopal district have the exact same number on that board. It's not possible to be more fair than that. So if we get an issue, and we anticipate an issue, certainly from our young people, about worship, We have a administrative board already of worship and ritual that we can send that to, allow them to think through it, allow them to work through it, and then bring us back the strategic plan for worship going forward. And we can do that with finances. We can do that with education. We can do that through missional work. We can do that with every section of our church.
Wow.
So we have general officers and connectional officers who's evaluating. We have bishops evaluating. We got the church giving us the information that needs to be evaluated. And then we got the administrative board, which gets clergy and lay evaluating, so that this strategic plan is not a Episcopal strategic plan. This is not the bishop's plan. This will indeed be the church's strategic plan.
Wow. This sounds like all the checks and balances are already in order, and they've been in existence, right? So really, we're just providing the analytics, the information, and then being able to disseminate that to their respective boards and have them operate under that new information, right? I need now to ask personally to both of you, as bishops of the A.M.E Zion Church, how much will this affect what you do, how you lead? What you're doing, your vision, the going into the new quadrennium in 2024, things of that nature. How much does this strategic plan mean to your purpose in the life of the A.M.E Zion Church moving forward?
It means the world to me, because we have an opportunity to hear from our people. I go back to this quote, and Bishop Hogarth said this: tradition is a springboard to the future, not an anchor weight to the past. We don't have to choose between being progressive and being true to who we are. They're one and the same. So I look forward to this. I want to hear from our seniors. I want to hear from our young people. And I want us to create a ministry, a method that is still firmly placed on the message that we have always preached. The message is still intact, but our method have to be adjusted. So I'm looking forward to the strategic plan to help me to adjust the method that will help us to get to a brighter place.
I don't think it could have been said better than what Bishop Crenshaw just said. The method, it's the method. And we've got to do that. Now, I'm going to hold this information valuable because the answers are a microcosm to a bigger nucleus. You got to, if it's happening in Alabama, Florida, it's also happening in the Western Episcopal District, and it's also happening in Eastern North Carolina. We are all the same. And with that, we may have some different views, some different answers, but I don't want to predict the answers, but I can predict that our beloved Zion is going to be able to say something in Alabama, Florida, that's going to be able to help the Delta, because we are going through the same thing. We're in different cities, we're in different churches, but we're serving the same God, and we're still a part of this beloved Zion that we love, and we just want to make it better. We just want to make it better. Like Bishop Crenshaw said, the method. So I'm going to hold it dear and use it. And it won't just be used up until 24 to the General Conference, as Bishop Crenshaw talking about, then the next quadrennium to 28, then to 32. This will help shape where we're going. My hope and prayer, as Kennedy and is there with Bishop Crenshaw, and Brian and Lexi are here with me. This is their church now. People keep saying it's their church tomorrow. No, this is their church now. And if we don't show them that they have a voice and ownership of this church now, you can forget them being a part of this church 10, 20 years down the road. We had you, and we didn't let you voice your concern. And we want Bishop Crenshaw's children that are in this house to be there, my children in my house to be able to be there, and offer at least give it a fair chance, because we heard them. Again, what we don't evaluate is going to evaporate. And just because we've been around forever don't mean we have to be around for eternity. But I plan on it being around a long, long time. So we want to hear from everybody so we can make this a better church. We can do the method.
A few more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. This has been informative and impactful, I believe, to our audience. I have a question, and I'm speaking now on behalf of some of the naysayers that are out there. Hey, man, we've done this before. The bishops aren't ready to hear us. I've expressed myself to a bishop. I've went up to leadership inside the A.M.E Zion Church. They're not changing. I'm going to another denomination. I'm doing something where they allow me to be as free to worship the way that I want to worship as possible. What do you say to that? Is this a new, fresh wind that's coming in on the Board of Bishops side? And you know what's about to happen in 2024 when we elect new bishops in that, right? Is this real, or are we just blowing smoke once again?
Brother Kent, let me tell you, with 8 annual conferences in America, 5 on the continent of Africa, and 3 additional ones we've started since General Conference, I don't have time to blow in the smoke. I simply don't. But this is what I say to persons who want a strategic plan, but they want to do their own thing. This is what I say to persons. The train only runs when it's on the track. There's a prescribed way and place that it's running, but it can only run on the track. When it jumps the track to do its own thing, it derails and go nowhere. Mm-hmm. That's what the church does. The church sets for us parameters, and we have freedom to run within those parameters. This is not Burger King. We're not going to be able to do it our way. We're going to study the church and allow the church to say to us, this is where we're interested in going. And then our tradition will say, this is how we get there. Our method and our message will match up. And for those who would say, we've done this before, I would simply say, watch it now.
Wow. Bishop Thompson, you have anything to add to that? Or?
Yes, shortly. I ditto what he says. We are at a critical juncture. We ain't got time to play no games. We ain't got time to be meeting to put out a survey just to say we put out a survey. Trust us. Trust us on this. I don't know who've asked what in the past, but we see the reality of our church. And we're not sitting up here trying to make a facade. We want this church to be something that is tangible, not only for now, but for years and years to come, that people will look at this broadcast and say 125 years ago, they were sitting up there on that little antiquated computer. Now we're being able to float it through the air and they go a hologram and see us up there.
Right.
I want us to be able to talk about that. But if we don't listen, if we don't hear the people, I don't know what's going to happen to us. So it behooves us, and we are called to serve, and we take this thing very seriously. So I know this bishop, as Bishop Crenshaw, Bishop Dogby, myself, and the total board of bishops are totally all in. And we're to the point where if we don't hear from the people, we don't know what to do. We're counting on God, but we need to hear from the people.
Last question. And thank you for that. I think it's important for those to hear directly from our bishops, that our bishops are on board, that this is real and that it makes a difference, and it's worth the time to actually do this survey as the first phase of the strategic planning process. I want you to now just bring us into the imaginary phase of what this will look like when it's all done, right? What does the future look like of the Strategic Planning Commission process when it's completed and it's actually now working? Like, what are some things that we could look forward to as far as change within the A.M.E Zion Church if done properly? If you could break that down in whichever way. If we can go with Bishop Thompson first and then Bishop Crenshaw right after.
Well, I tell you, I think the way it affects us in the future, we'll stop speculating and we'll start applying, because right now we only have to go on what we think. And that's a dangerous thing. And again, we're the Reverend Fathers of the church, and we thank God for being elevated and trusted to serve this church. But none of us, collectively or individually, think we know enough to be able to guide this ship where it needs to go without the help of the Lord and the wishes of the people. And when I say the wishes of the people, it's not about, if it was just about sending pastors to places, which we used to have, that mechanism we used to use, wishes of the church. We're talking about the wishes of worship, the wishes of uniformity, the wishes of strategic worship, of virtual worship, of why we come to church. We need to hear that so we can be prayerful and say, God, this is uncomfortable for me, but this is what the people show me, teach me, touch my heart, give me vision. Because Bishop Crenshaw, I apologize to the board of bishops. I say this everywhere I go. I am not ashamed. After 3 months of being on the board, I apologize to every one of them because I thought I knew what a bishop did, and I thought I had all the answers. Sitting at an annual conference, Bishop Monroe, if he hears this, y'all bleep this out. I used to sit there and say, Bishop Monroe, what is he doing? Why is he sitting and rubbing flip-flop the chitlins with? You know, he don't need to do that. Why is he putting this over there? Then I realized something. It's different when you get on this side, and you have to see it from a kingdom view rather than a singular view. With that, the same premise. We've got to see it from a kingdom view, and the kingdom are the people of God. And we want to be able to hear that. So where we go with this is we want to be able to hear it because, and I want to tell everybody, our bishops care about our church. Anybody who think they don't. And there's sometimes as a new bishop, ain't but 14, 15 months in, I used to wonder what they did in that room. Were they sitting out there just looking at ESPN, Sports Center or something? I said, what are they doing? The problem is of feeling the pulse of the church. And that's what the Board of Bishops and the Strategic Planning Commission want. We want to feel the pulse of the church and take the reading so that we can be able to institute not just the bishops, but like Bishop Crenshaw said, those different departments, those different commissions will be able to take this information and make our church a better church. So we're ready. We just need the information, and I can show you better than I can tell you. Y'all give us the information and you will see us evolve. Change is a hard thing. Folk don't want to change, but we as the A.M.E Zion Church are going to have to evolve. If we don't evolve, we're going to find ourselves at a juncture that I think that we're going to regret for the rest of eternity.
Bishop Crenshaw?
But Ken, if the church looks the same at the end of this strategic planning period and implementation, we've done something wrong. Society has changed. The world has changed. I rode with my grandfather to the very churches as he was presiding elder. I drove him to the very churches that he was presiding elder over. I go to those churches now as the bishop of the area. And I'm telling you, the things I saw as an 18 or 19-year-old, in many cases, are still in place. And that was 36 years ago. If we as a denomination do not embrace the strategic plan and listen to the voices of the people, we will have missed our moment to revolutionize our church and our society. I firmly believe that the Board of Bishops will be the first to say, let's implement that which will bless the church. Now, we recognize as a board, we're not driving a speed ship. We're not driving a jet boat. We're driving a big steam ship. And it takes a while to turn it. But I'm telling you, this Board of Bishops is committed and dedicated to turning whichever way we have to serve this present age. That's true Methodism. Not being lost in our past, but serving the present age. That's what Methodism is all about.
Amen. The message doesn't change, the method does. And if you don't evaluate it, we're going to evaporate. Those are my takeaways from today. I thank you both for your time on this evening. I think the church, if they could speak virtually, and they probably are in the chat right now, I know they're thanking you for being so transparent, for leading this commission, for taking on not only the work of the commission, but the work inside each one of your Episcopal districts and then Zion as a whole. And we realize it's not easy. We pray for you often, pretty much every day at the headquarters of the A.M.E Zion denomination. And I know it's happening across the entire church. we love you, and we sincerely have your back on everything that's going on, and we know that this is step one in the process of the strategic planning for our future of the A.M.E Zion Church. I want to say, do you have any final thoughts before we close out on this evening?
We're looking forward to receiving this information, evaluating it, and making our preliminary report at the Board of Bishops meeting. We will hear from the church at that meeting, and when we come back to the church in New Orleans at the Connectional Council, we will be prepared to present our full report, to be ratified, to be altered, to whatever the church decides, so that when we move to the General Conference of 24, we're prepared to implement what the church has said to us.
Well said, Bishop Crenshaw, and I want to commend Bishop Crenshaw for his vision. Bishop Monroe was very correct and led by God in his godly judgment. I say that because I don't have to blow smoke up his toes, because I'm not looking for an appointment. I was looking for a vote when last time I came before him, but this time I'm working with him. And I say this because he was the youngest presiding elder as a young man in Charlotte, South Carolina, riding Alabama with his granddad, coming through, and all of us. And when I say that, he has a total vision of being a young man in our church, now being able to be one of the young adults in our church, and then being able to transition to a senior in our church years to come. He's had a total vision of this thing.
Wow.
And it was just a great person to put there, because he's got the chance to see it at the two levels. He has not quite made it to the next level yet, but he's got a chance to see it. So he didn't just come and get dropped in and implanted one day. He's been able to see it. So he's been very steady at the wheel. And he talks about that ship. He's the one that realizes that we have to turn the ship, and the ship might not turn for 2 or 3 miles, but he knows it will turn because he's seen the turn. He's seen the changes. So that's the way he's led us in this. And I'm telling you, the directives he's given and the persons that have taken up the mantle, along with our strategic planning team, our subgroup, and then, of course, with the people of Zion in those 3 areas he talked about with Walls, with Bishop Dogby, myself. That was a concept that he came up with, so we could get each area, the general officers, the bishops, as well as the masses. That was just ingenious, so we could get a total organic feel of what it is. And then the anonymity that you talked about, that was one of the things that he stressed. People ain't gonna talk. It's just like you said in the meeting about Brother Ken. If people know it, they ain't gonna tell the truth. So this is gonna be a truth document. I can't wait to get it in my hands. It's gonna be a living document, just like Bishop Crenshaw said, and we're gonna use it. We're gonna use it. I can show you better than I can tell you. I just said it before. It will come up, and it will come up often. But please, please, all y'all that's listening, please don't delay. Once you get this in your hands, fill out the survey. It will not take long. Please, and be honest with us and give it to us. We're not doing it just so we can have a gripe session. We need to hear from your heart. Remember, your answers are not necessarily for you. They're also for your babies. They're for your spouse. They're for your children's children. This will live much longer than our existence. So I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, listen, thank you both for this time. The link is now live at the time when you'll be viewing this, and we want to encourage you again to if you have your Star of Zion and you're not plugged into anything that's going on our digital platforms, it's really simple. You take out your phone and you take a picture, open up the picture, the photo app on your phone, and then you're able to click on that image, and then it should hyperlink straight to the link through that QR code that you see on it. It looks like a barcode in a box. If you click that, you'll be able to take that survey. Shouldn't take too long to get through the survey. 10, 15 minutes. Is that what you would say, Bishop Thompson?
That's right. 10, 15 minutes.
Somewhere around there. So we encourage you to do this. This is vitally important to the existence of our church. Just making sure that we can make sure that we have the pulse of the people and are able to translate that to our leadership in order to get what we need to do across the entire denomination and give God the glory in everything that we do, where the message and the mandate are linked up together. Thank you again for this informative session, joining us this evening in this virtual session of When Freedom Speaks. We're engaging you to advance the kingdom on your behalf. Thank you again to our bishops, and we love you on tonight. God bless you all.
God bless you.